Hey everyone! Welcome to another Stonehearth Desktop Tuesday. This is week 3 of our deep dive into the conversation system as part of an ongoing series that illustrates how a Stonehearth feature gets from concept into the game. Stonehearth is a game about a small group of people optimizing their environment in order to thrive, so the primary goal of the conversation feature is to commemorate your achievements from your hearthling's point of view. Last week, we explored how artist Malley made a ton of new animations to turn each conversation into a mini-story, one that conveyed that hearthlings had opinions about the things that they encountered. Today, let's take a look at how Artist Allie, with the help of Malley and Engineer Max, designed the look and feel of the thought bubbles so that they both show subjects, things hearthlings have recently interacted with, and how each hearthling feels about the subject. At first, we thought this task would be pretty simple. In a stream from last year, we did a quick mock-up of a rabbit head in a thought bubble. A little badge, or a red border, or some colored hearthling language denoted the hearthling's emotion about this critter. When Allie looked over the project, though, she immediately identified some key problems with that approach. The first and most important being that the conversation bubbles had to read well even at tiny sizes. Unlike hunger or sleep or harvest toasts, which give you actionable gameplay data, or a signal that you have taken an action and therefore remain clamped at a certain size no matter the camera's distance, conversations are an informational enhancement to the game, and therefore ought not to be a fixed size, or they'd be all the player would ever see, potentially drowning out more relevant information. As a result, they may have to appear very small on the screen. This meant that having multiple things inside the bubble, like a face to show mood, was not going to work. The more shapes that you have in a tiny space, the harder it is to read. Allie then made a study of a number of possible dialogue box shapes, some of which could denote joy, others of which could denote sadness, and the last of which would be a plain neutral option. This way, the dialogue bubble itself would tell you how the hearthling felt about the subject. She and Malley and Max put some drafts of these shapes into the game, but it turned out that even the simplest of these complex shapes could not be distinguished from each other when zoomed out. Only the very basic box shape survived their tests, so they knew they'd have to find another way to denote positivity and negativity. Allie began to work with color to convey this, light yellow for happiness and dark blue for sadness. This was tricky because colors are actually hard for the eye to distinguish, and colorblind people can't distinguish them at all, and the ascendancy in the forest biome has a very mid-tone palette, so when zoomed out, a mid-tone yellow blended right into a mid-tone green or blue. In the end, Allie solved this by making the happy color a very light yellow and the sad color a very dark blue, emphasizing value differences as well as color differences. The other complication we ran into was the fact that while zoomed out, subjects were quite hard to distinguish, though when zoomed in, it's quite tempting to put headshots of goblins or rabbits or wolves into the bubbles because then you get more resolution on their faces. We discovered that if the bubble is really small because you're reading it from a distance, you're much more likely to recognize the subject if the whole subject's profile is depicted, from their head to their feet, since that's how you're used to identifying the subject when you see it in-game. When making the silhouettes of wolves or ogres, for example, we made them distinguishable when you see a full body shot of them far away, so it makes sense that they would be most recognizable in the subject bubble from far away in this form. We did hit upon the idea of hiding the subjects if a player was sufficiently far from the balloon, since if a subject is too small, there's no hope of seeing it at all anyway. In this case, all you'd see is the emotional tone of the conversation with a ... to denote that you're far away. Max suggested using happy and sad faces for this to make the tone really explicit, but we ended up feeling that this conveyed that the hearthling's mood actually increased or decreased when they talked about sad or happy things. In actuality, this is not the case. Agreement at the end of conversation causes mood increases, and disagreement at the end of conversation causes decreases, so in the end we moved Max's face idea to the ends of conversations, at the point in which the conversation itself actually has a chance of changing the hearthling's mood state. Once we had this design, we still encountered a daunting number of technical problems before Allie, Malley, and Max felt that the system was good enough to put in the game. The primary issue was that all the subjects and all the balloons were incredibly fuzzy in-game, because the game allows you to zoom in and out, which resizes the pictures and causes aliasing, or fuzzing, between pixels. To alleviate this issue, Max set a minimum bubble size that would display pixel perfect no matter how far away the bubble is. We also changed how we scaled the bubbles, moving from world space scaling to screen space scaling, over which the game has more control. Finally, bubbles had halos, because transparent pixels were being displayed with weird colors, so Allie and Malley fixed this by switching some of the items to .tgas instead of .pngs. Finally, saving out specific subject portraits for all the subjects in the game was taking forever, so Max solved this by creating an automatic camera that will take pictures of every object from a predefined distance and angle. Some items like jerky needed to be fixed up manually, but this saved the team as a whole a ton of time. And that's it for this week. In addition to conversations, the team continues to work on the same long-term projects I mentioned before, building performance and AI, metagame design, water, and concept art, with some notable experiments from Chris in improving the UX of building walls and rooms. Let us know what you think here in the comments or on our forum at discourse.stonehearth.net. You can also find us on Twitch. A different member of our team streams their current projects and development every Thursday at 6 p.m. PST on our Twitch channel, www.twitch.tv/Stonehearth. See you next week!